Did you actually meet Syd? How did you find him generally to talk to?
I only met him a couple of times, but he was not very pleasant, to be honest with you.
The new book by Derek Shulman, Giant Steps, will be available to buy from the 7th of October. It's available as a physical product and as Kindle download, whatever your poison is. I would highly recommend it. It's absolutely cracking read. There are purchasing links just below this video. Derek, the first question is I'd like to blow a few cobwebs off and ask you about Kites by Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. I was interested in the sort of childhood whimsy was very much in vogue in sort of 1967, and as this came out sort of 5 months after Sgt Pepper, was that an influence at all?
Yes, it was, of course. I mean, we were all influenced by the Beatles anyway. I mean, that was why we became musicians. That was they changed everything. I mean, for every teenage boy and even girl, when I was growing up. But certainly Sergeant Pepper, um, they were moving on from 2.5 minute, sing along songs to something which is a little different. And we didn't write the song. I mean, to be honest with you, it was written, believe it or not, by the guys that wrote Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini of all things. I mean, we were given it, and we were given it in a different version. We said let's try and make something out of this ditty we had, to sound like something which is a little psychedelic, if you like, or whatever it is. And we recorded it and said, well, if this is a good shot to become a hit, who knows? And we went off to I think a tour of Sweden, and we got a call coming back from, I think, from Malmo to Hull, saying it was in the top 20. So we had no idea whether it was going to completely fall on its face, and we'd have no no future with the power part of our records. But it became a top 10 record, which is unbelievable, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you think about all that sort of 60s counterculture. Pete Townsend says the 60s counterculture was just youthful idealism and drug-fueled hope. Has he hit the nail on the head, or is he just being a bit of a curmudgeon?
Well, keeps a margin for certainly. um, but no, actually it wasn't drug fuel for us. I mean, we were drug free. I mean, that's the honest truth. But yeah, we were trying to move forward. We tried to, because we had that big hit, and we were becoming. This is my first group, Simon Dupree.
Mhm.
Um, we were becoming better musicians and playing different things. And then you have a couple of hits, and you start being booked for pretty big money at these Scanty and Chip circuit things, which is the most soul-destroying venues you could ever play. Because yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so we started, playing these venues, and it was so depressing, that waiting for the couple of hits we had, that we said, let's do something completely different. But during that period of time, of course, Kites was the biggest one we had, and wait for it, Uh, but anyway, yeah, it certainly, yeah, Sergeant Pepper certainly changed a great deal for a lot of bands who were going around at that time, who became different kind of bands.
Do you remember your first impression when you heard that album?
Sergeant Pepper.
Yeah,
Um,
because Roger Waters of the Pink Floyd says they actually pulled the car over to the side of the road while it was being played on the radio because they played the whole thing because they were quite astounded by it.
yeah, we were too. I mean, I think we were too, because we were recording in Abbey Road, and I think actually I if I can remember rightly, I did put this in the book. I think Jeff Emmerich, who was our engineer, who was their
Mhm.
engineer, he actually played it to us while we were there. It was as it was coming out, and we were just amazed at what musically, and we said, "Man, we wished we could do something like this," which we tried, a couple of maybe a few months later with another thing, which I'm sure you know about, with the moles, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Talking about the childhood whimsy and that night from 1967. You said you crossed paths with Pink Floyd. Were you a fan of that early Floyd sound, and how did they differ from your approach to music at the time?
Well, yeah, we do Pink Floyd, of course, because they were on EMI as well, and
Hmm.
they recorded in the same studios, uh, and I saw them when we saw them when they were playing their shows. I can't what was the venue? I can't remember. Yeah,
UFO, UFO.
yeah, exactly that UFO.
Yeah.
Um, and quite honestly, we weren't fans because it was more how can I put this? It was more event than music.
Hmm.
There were all these lights and there lots of sounds, but there weren't really any really great melodies, to be honest with you. We didn't, you know, obviously afterwards they wrote some fantastic stuff, but during the early period when they were just, getting it together, there was a lot of hype in the music presses about this amazing new psychedelic, this word psychedelic band. And I mean, I don't think our band was that impressed by it. I should eat my words right now,
No, it's fine.
but of course, I guess in some ways they were ahead of their time, in doing what they were doing. But honestly, when we saw them, they weren't as great musically as they became, I think, ultimately.
You think when David Gilmour joined, maybe?
Yeah, when David Gilmour joined.
Well, I
Yeah.
always said he brought a kind of a musical orthodoxy to that band and a grace almost. Which brings me on to my next question. In a way, I was going to say, Syd Barrett, visionary or mere psychedelic doodler? How did you find your dealings with Syd Barrett? I think you said he was rather dismissive of your band. And do you resent Sid for blowing your cover as the identity behind We Are the Moles? Long-winded question. Sorry about that.
Um, well, Sid, I mean, obviously, Sid uh, was a visionary, of course, for the band, for Pink Floyd, of course. But he obviously had some emotional slash issues that
Mhm.
debilitated him, which I can't blame him or say anything about that. But of course, when we did We Are the Moles, we were having fun, but we were having fun in a kind of in a way that we hoped it would kind of like put us into a whole new category of band because having had the hit, if you like, the big hit, it was almost like a millstone around our necks
Hmm.
because we weren't allowed to play anything new or interesting. So this is a kind of okay, let's try this. And Sid was there when we were recording it. And when it's starting to go up the charts, and people thought it was the Beatles and everything else, Sid blew the whistle and it's just said to NME and MM, it's that cracky band Cyber Dupree. The single was up the charts and it bombed straight down again right after. So we were kind of left hanging there still in Cyber Dupree. So
Hmm.
in retrospect, it would have been the wrong thing anyway. I'm glad he did it because it wasn't really what we wanted to do either. It's just something to try out to see if it would happen or not.
Did you actually meet Sid? How did you find him generally to talk to?
I only met him a couple of times, but he was not very pleasant, to be honest with you. Um, everyone kind of in that period of time at Abbey Road, you'd have 3-hour sessions, and
Hmm.
and there was a canteen downstairs, and that was a fantastic period of time. And you see all the bands that had to finish their sessions, or they were sort of about to do their sessions, and the orchestra, of course, the London Symphony is Studio One. They were the best ones, to hang out with Sir Adrian Bolt, asking us what we were doing, etc. So yeah, we met them downstairs, but they were very a little standoffish, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We were as opposed to some of the other bands, who would be there and hey, how you doing? When's your next gig, etc., etc. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Um, you seem to cultivate some fairly ropey connections, certainly during Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. How close did you ever come to waking up with a horse's head next to you,
Um,
with the old cement slippers, perhaps?
well, I mean, for whatever reason, as you read in the book. There was a team in the Isle of Wight who were offshoots of the Craze, and
Hmm.
for whatever reason, they loved the band, and they actually put on shows in the Isle of Wight and made sure they were sold out. And there was a guy, the head guy of that mob was a guy called Wilf Pine,
Hmm.
and is pretty infamous in the whole world of rock and roll. Having just seen Black Sabbath, do their thing, and Wilf brought Black Sabbath to the same management as we did.
Hmm.
Mm. So, yeah, we were well as close. How close? Um, we met Mr. Cristaldi in Catania, Italy,
Hmm.
and that's as pretty damn close as you could get.
Yes.
And we said, "Hello, sir. We'll do our gigs in Palermo and Catania," and we got paid and paid him a percentage, and and we were very very popular in Gentle Giant in Italy, and yeah, we came quite close to to the real thing. It was bizarre.
Wow. Wow. I mean, this when you were Simon Dupree in the Big Sound, or this is when you were Gentle Giant?
Well, that was Simon Dupree, of course, but
And how do they feel about you transitioning to
not
Gentle
sure that
Giant?
was Gentle Giant. I'm sorry about that. But in Simon Dupree, we were friends with the mob, if you like, in the Isle of Wight. And when we changed management from from my brother-in-law to Jerry Braun, and Jerry Braun, who was an incredible manager at that time, he allowed us to become Gentle Giant. We changed. He didn't like Aquiring the Taste, and Wilf Pine and the team from the Isle of Wight jumped in and said, "Well, you know what? We got better management for you anyway. Patrick Meehan, worldwide artists. They have Black Sabbath. They had Edgar Broughton. They have who else? The Groundhogs,
Hmm.
and they want you, and they're going to make you huge." So we had that ongoing relationship, if you like, with
Yeah.
with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Certainly at the beginning, you were certainly at the beginning, when all that glam stuff was beginning to rear its sparkly head. Did you find bands like T-Rex substituted talent for sequins and glitter? And did you recognize, say, in Bowie, the artist that he would later become?
Um,
How did you feel about all that glam stuff generally? I mean, it was.
Well, we can't. I mean, it was it's funny because you look back and people poo-pooed ABBA when they came out, and when it was you know, you had two minds about it. You poo-pooed it if you're doing something which is a little more eclectic or
Yeah.
esoteric. But in fact, it was a guilty pleasure, and we enjoyed it actually. We thought that's a lot of fun, and Bowie was an incredible visionary actually, and we got on very well with that with Bowie. He was recording hit Man Who Sold the World and
Hmm.
T-Rex, of course, were recording as at the same time we were recording our first album with Tony Visconti. So we got to know those guys pretty well. Um, Mark Bolan was I mean, he cracked us up a little because he was that person you saw on stage, and that's unusual. Some you see someone go off the stage, and they're kind of normal, but Mark was a rock star off the stage. I mean, he lived the part. Bowie was much more shy and kind of reticent. The band were great though. I mean, Mick Ronson and the guys from Hull, the Spiders of Mars, they were great, great guys to hang out with.
Yeah, I mean, there was famously quite a lot of rivalry between Bolan and Bowie. I think I remember. I mean, I just read in a book about Bowie that Bolan kind of resented the success that he achieved with Space Oddity. Um, but
It was
yeah, I mean, this when Bowie this would this have been around about the hunky dory phase or
1970, 71. So I think it was a
Man Who
little early.
Sold the World, isn't it? Hunky Dory. Hunky Dory was 70, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I think they both were, or 71 maybe. Uh, but I believe it's 70. Well, we recorded our first album in 70 with Tony Visconti.
Yeah.
And and literally it was again session after session. And Tony was working on three albums, the Bowie album, T-Rex album, and Gentle Giant albums.
Wow.
So it was, great, fantastic time to be in the studio and to be in a band.
Talking about recording at this time, do you think the fact that Acquiring the Taste was actually written as you were recording it affected the overall quality of the material, in your opinion? And was your then manager right in his criticisms of the album?
Um, we only had, well, we were following up our first album, which you have, a long period of time to write, with an album which you have 5 minutes to write. So, we only had half of the album written. So we literally went into the studio, um, sometimes without a song being written and had not a click track, a metronome going.
Hmm.
It was before click tracks were even invented, if you like. And we kind of made up tracks or songs or pieces of music on the spot, and some of them, I mean, turned out really, really well, but it was very different to the first album. It was not quite as melodic, much more so experimental, because it was literally the experiment in the studio. And Tony he loved that, actually. He loved the fact that we were doing something which was literally off the top of our heads. And Kerry, our keyboard player,
Hmm.
has a degree in composition and percussion, and Ray, my brother, they were, he has he's also a classically trained musician. We would put our musicianships to work during that period of time. But yes, you're right. Jerry Braun, when he heard it, thought it was awful and said, "I'm not interested in working with you." So we had to find new management.
Yeah, yeah. Um, in retrospect, do you feel the artwork now, you would have rather chosen something different for the artwork, or?
Yes, even worse. And even the liner notes, which were um, uh, how can they were a little, yeah, I'll say the word pretentious. They
Mhm.
kind of were. I mean, there was, I'm going to blame this on my brother Phil, which was true, because there were his lines, and they were, a little pretentious and pompous, because in the I can't remember exactly what it was saying, but in the light of being potentially being unpopular, we're going to present this music anyway. That's not quite true. We wanted to be popular, of course we did.
Anyway, so Giant Steps by Derek Shulman will be released on the 7th of October. And from the tone of this interview, I think you can imagine it's going to be a cracking read. I do urge you to buy it. There are purchasing links just below this video. Right, Derek, it's past my bedtime here in the UK, so I'm gonna call it a night. I want to thank you so much for participating in this, and best of luck with your book.
Thank you, Larry. Great to speak to you again.
Okay,
Really.
my pleasure. Bye bye.